Hello, welcome to Shep and Dep. My name is Mike Shepard, and this is my co-host, Harry Areola.
What's happening? Thanks for joining us today.
Each week, we're going to bring you a new episode on items that we find interesting. Look for us. We're going to be doing a show coming up in a week or two about the Detroit Music Underground from the years 1990 to 99. We're going to hit on the Juggalo scene, how it got going, where it's at, and kind of where it's going to. Other shows we're going to be doing also include books that we like, shitty movies, and some other off-the-wall items, anything that we kind of dig a little bit.
All the good stuff.
So please keep coming back and tuning in, and we'll keep bringing you weird shit. Tonight, episode 1, obviously it's brought to you by Cough Studios, and me and my friend Harry here, my co-host, we're going to be talking about a special topic. It's kind of a personal thing for me, and it's my journey and struggles with alcoholism. I'm going to be discussing basically the long, hard road, how I got to where I was, and what did and did not work in my battle to find a more sober ground out there.
Yeah, this episode is going to be a little deep. They're not all going to be like this, but we want to touch on this one first because it is a really interesting story.
Yeah, before we get started, there's a few things I want to mention. One, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a psychiatrist, I'm not a counselor, just a regular dude, man, and an alcoholic. I'm not perfect. I do not have all the answers. I'm a traveler, and this is my story. Why? Why am I doing this? I'm sharing my story in hopes that it could help somebody out there, perhaps someone that hears something. You find yourself in the same boat that I was in, and you don't really know where to go or how to move forward in getting better. And if you are out there listening, man, there is hope, because I'm living proof of it. And tonight, hopefully, that I can kind of share a few things that might help you. If another person that might find some value here, if your friend or loved one is struggling with addiction, specifically alcohol, but it could be any drugs, man. It doesn't really matter. When you're hurting, you're hurting.
Everybody's got some issues.
Right. And so, this might be applicable. The ultimate goal is to get to a better place, where you're happy and healthy, and you can be, just a better version of yourself. For me personally, it took a really long time. It's been almost 14 years riding down the road.
14 years.
Yeah, and I'm in a better place today, and but it wasn't always easy. It was confusing, bumpy, hard to understand, and I have gotten lost from time to time. It's just something that happens when you're on this little path. The story is for everyone, but like I said, especially for people that are struggling. They want to change, and they just don't know how. And probably even more importantly than that is for people that are trying to get help, and you're just resistant to the basic standard resources that are out there for treatment. There really isn't a lot if you're just starting out and you want to get better and you don't know. There's only a few real set paths, and for me, they just didn't work. And I'm going to kind of highlight that. We're going to talk about that a little bit, and just go from there.
We're going to try to encourage family members, if you have anybody, to be more supportive and help them out, because they're definitely struggling. And there's not a lot of places for them to go get help, and they definitely need your support during this time in their life, for sure.
Absolutely. Also, things I talk about, I wouldn't say they're controversial, but they definitely might go against the mainstream. If you're a fan of AA, or it works for you, hey, more power to you. I just want to see everyone get better and well. I'm going to knock it a little bit, and I'll explain why. I'm not really interested in getting into philosophical debates. I don't really care about moral police and theories that just don't work. I'm not about false hope. I'm a reality-based kind of guy, and so I want to help people find relief, find shelter from the storm, and get better. This is a story of me. I'm not including any steps to nowhere. I don't really believe in magic coins. I don't really dig that.
Got enough of those. How
Yeah.
many of those you got, buddy?
I have 5 or 6 that I can find.
All right.
And Yeah, I'm not really about sermons of righteousness. I'm just going to tell you what worked for me, and it definitely wasn't what was already out there. So I'm going to try to leave as much of the bullshit out of this tonight and just kind of jump right in.
And once again, we don't want to discourage you from getting help from AA or any other source.
Right, and further, when I go into rehab, same kind of thing. Some people might have a total different take on it. I'm going to explain what happened to me and what didn't work. But
yeah, it's not everybody's story. This is just what
right.
happened to you and what helped you.
Yeah. As with all stories, it's got to start somewhere. I'm not going to go back to the very, very beginning because we've kind of talked about this show and what we were going to do and the direction we were going to take it in. And over a few takes we tried out, and I guess in the end we kind of agreed that it doesn't really matter how you got here. There's 1,000 ways to be an alcoholic. There's 1,000 ways to be a drug addict. It doesn't matter, man. All that matters is that you're in a bad spot and you wanna get healthy. And so I'm gonna leave out a lot of the bullshit in the prefab. So yeah, I'm gonna just start it off. The year was 2006, and that's where I found myself. It was a gradual process. I don't know. Just one day I woke up and I was in big trouble. I was alcoholic, and things weren't going good.
Did it just start with drinking friends, like casually and partying, and then
yeah,
turn into every day real fast?
Yeah, I when I was a little bit younger, used to drink for good times or whatever, and then it kind of spilled over into all the time, and then it was like, this is what I need to even do anything. It kind of slowly turned into that, to the point where you need a couple beers to take a shower in the morning, or I can't eat a full meal without having a few drinks. And it doesn't happen all at once. It kind of slowly creeps up on you, and but before you know it, you're in this it's basically like a nightmare. There's a lot of misery, a lot of bad shit there. And so yeah, I find myself there in 2006, and I'm in bad shape, and I knew something had to be done. My friends and loved ones had obviously been expressing concern for a few years. And I knew things were bad, but I just didn't know what to do. I was 26 years old, and I know from talking with other alcoholics I met in treatment and rehab, the idea of never being able to use again was such a scary thing to say out loud. There was like no fucking way, man.
Right.
I'm 26. Am I going to live another 40 years and never drink again? Are you kidding me?
And that's the only thing you found to
yeah.
Be one with yourself or whatever.
Yeah, this is something, that made me comfortable in my own skin.
Right.
And now all of a sudden, I'm going to take that away. I can never do it again. I just couldn't, at 26, I could not see a future without drinking. And so I knew that I had to stop or slow down or cut back or something. I wasn't quite ready to go all in. But I knew that I had to do something. Friends and family were standing around. Everyone's confused. They're worried. And by 26, my life was starting to turn to shit. I started breaking a lot of the rules that I used to set for myself. I never drink in the morning. I won't call in sick because I've been partying too hard. My mantra was always, hey, I'm working. Leave me the fuck alone. I'm getting up. I take care of business. I work hard and I play harder.
Right.
But at some point, it started to fail. And, I started having to call in sick. You can't go into work fucked up. And, the hair of the dog kind of really was a big setback that I kind of learned to deal with around that same time. Some asshole, during one of my many hard mornings had recommended, hey, why don't you try a beer in the morning? It just kind of helped things out or whatever. And so,
He's been there before.
Yeah. And so I subscribed to it and I tried it. And unfortunately, all it really does is start you drinking for the next day. And the vicious cycle just continues and continues. And it
never ends.
There's no end.
You pass out drunk and you wake up drinking.
Yep. It's really weird. It's the weirdest thing to describe to someone, because the thing that made me the most sick also gave me the relief I needed.
Your medicine's your poison, yeah.
Yeah, and a lot of people don't get that. And so for the friends and family members that are out there, there has to be some compassion there. I know it looks ugly and it's terrible, but, you just have to try to kind of look from a different perspective and see where the people are coming from. You know, the most important thing is if they express that they're almost ready, or they think they're ready to get help, because if you see that is a time to really act, man, because it's usually few and far between.
Well, yeah, I'm sure it's not the next day, like the first time they felt out of control. You know, probably realized it, and then you probably dealt with it for a year or so before you yourself realized you needed some help.
Yeah, usually, you know, like for me, I was pretty much the last person to realize that it was time to do something. You know, everyone else around me.
It's common.
Yeah, and so a regular day for me, you know, eating was impossible. You know, I'd be dehydrated, you know, to the point where my hands would cramp up, my legs, I couldn't do anything. You know, stomach was totally wrecked. You know, you get weird sensations. Basically, just things that made life completely difficult, you know, and it really kind of wore on me, man, because I carried a lot of shame and guilt with it, because I knew what I was doing every time that I would use again, that it was counterproductive and it was no good, but I was just looking for relief at that point.
Yeah.
And that's kind of a big problem I have with AA, which I'll get into in a minute, is, you know, the feeling of addiction is such a physical one. And for a lot of people, people like me included, paper and ink do not translate into filling that gap, basically. And so first attempts at trying to get clean. There wasn't a lot out there. Pretty much the only thing that anyone ever wanted to talk about was AA. You see it in movies. You see people reference it at the bar. It's like a running joke almost, you know. But it was a starting point. It was somewhere to go and just try to address this major problem that I had.
That's where I would have went first.
Yeah, and so I didn't know anything about it. I had no real relationship with it other than, you know, what is in the popular culture. And, you know, I had an idea, you know, there's a bunch of tables and shitty coffee, but other than that, it was just kind of up in the air. And so the first meeting I went to, it was in a church, you know, local. And like I said, AA, it's out there and it's around. If you need it and it works for you or whatever, go find it. You can look it up on the internet. There's 1,000 posts. They literally run all day long in pretty much every town somewhere. So
really?
if you find that works for you, the good news is that AA is everywhere. So whatever. So back to my little deal. Yeah, I go to the church. They're usually held in churches. So I was at this church, and unlike what my idea of it was, this one, it was kind of like a squared off room. You know, there's about 14 or 15 people, and you kind of just sat in a square. And you know, I got there a little early. I didn't really know what to think about it. I was looking for help. And
Was it what you expected, like from the movies and what you see? Like, was it kind of?
Well, other than the configuration of the tables, you know, it kind of got going. There was like a dude that was definitely in charge there, and there was a guy that had a bunch of little coins, little casino chips sitting next to him. And basically, they kind of dictated how the meeting would go. And if you're not familiar with AA, a massive part of it is talking. It's a talking program. It's a lot of words. And I wasn't really too hip on sharing in front of a large group of people. I was the dude in school that sat in the back, and I hated talking about my projects and science, whatever, man. I was not really a public speaking kind of dude. And so I was a little bit nervous, and you know, as the discussion went around, you know, everybody would introduce themselves. Hello, I'm alcoholic. This is what I want to talk about. You know, I kind of found myself just kind of counting down the people till it got to me, and I was a little terrified. You know, I don't know. I didn't know what I was going to say. I had a problem. I wanted to quit drinking, kind of, but not forever. I really wasn't sure what I was going to say.
It seemed like blasé, like you were just going to repeat what everybody else was saying, kind of?
Yeah, I was kind of looking to the people that were talking before me for some inspiration. And one of the weirdest things is that most of the people that were talking, they didn't have much to say about actually drinking. I mean, the reason that I was there, this first meeting, and the reason I was there, I wanted to stop. I wanted to find the magic bullet, the magic whatever it was that would be, hey man, you don't have to drink anymore. You're going to be fine.
And I'm sure you was hoping you'd find it that day.
Yeah, I thought, like I said, I had preconceived notions. I would just show up and it would be this really easy, normal thing, and it just wasn't. a lot of the people talked about things that had nothing to do with drinking, really, and I kind of made me wonder what the fuck they were doing there. There was a few people that briefly touched on it. Some people wanted to talk about the relationships, but it was definitely showing up for like an inside joke. A lot of the people apparently go there, regulars like their meetings, and so you kind of show up on an inside joke where you don't know what went on the week before or whatever, and so it's kind of hard to make sense of it if that's how it's kind of going. And so I was kind of confused, and I think one or two guys actually talked about slipping and drinking, and I definitely tuned in for that. But I really was having trouble finding value there. And finally it was my turn to talk, and I wimped out. I said, hey, my name's Mike, I'm an alcoholic, just like everyone else did. And, I said, I really don't have anything to share. I'm kind of new. And they were really nice. You will find that people in AA, they're pretty accepting. They're nice. No one's going to fuck with you or anything like that. But it was just next on to the next dude, and then that was that. And I remember after the first meeting, I went outside, and I lit up a cigarette in my big shitty Buick LeSabre, and I was trying to figure out, what had just happened. I was doing like a body check. Did I feel any different? Right. Was I thinking any different? Like I was looking for some weird change, some magic.
Yeah.
And I was literally the same dude that had come out that had gone in, and I kind of knew at that point that there wasn't going to be any easy fix, and that this might not really work out for me. I decided that, based on one experience, you can't really judge anything. You can't judge drugs on one experience or getting drunk even, So I thought maybe if I went to a different meeting in like a different format in a different town, maybe I would find some value, So I just kind of went forward, and I remember people asking me, well, how was it? They had really high expectations, you're going to AA, things are going to change, things are happening now. And I really didn't have the heart to tell him that I didn't really know what to think about it, but it was more confusion than anything.
Wow.
The next meeting that I went to, it kind of was a little more traditional. I remember showing up early. I wanted to get a seat in the corner somewhere so I could kind of observe people and just kind of get the vibe of the place. And there was a lot of tables, and just like the first meeting, I was kind of like one of the younger ones there, and it kind of made me feel weird. I didn't really know what to expect, but a lot of people were, 10 or 20 years older than me at these meetings, Yeah. And so they kind of made it kind of strange. I'm not really sure why, I don't know. I was thinking there'd be more younger people there. But I remember at the second meeting, they had like all these tables set up around a room, and this looks pretty basic or whatever. And there were certain tables that had signs on them, and I'm like, well, what the fuck is that? And check these signs out, and it would have like advanced, or advanced people in the program, reserved only for them. You couldn't sit there unless you had been on so many steps or so many years sobriety. And I remember it was really like a turnoff, man, because in my mind, if the program was working for you, if AA was really doing the trick, why wouldn't you want to be sitting with the people that were struggling or relapsing or having a hell of a time and share this magic that you had somehow found? Right. It felt like a two-tier system, almost like a class system, and I thought it was kind of jive, And another thing that I noticed after this meeting and some of the other ones, the people with long-term sobriety, obviously I want to talk to them. They're doing something right. They're staying sober.
Figure out their tricks.
Yeah. What is the secret in your sauce, man? What are you doing that is working for you? And a lot of people would reference these spiritual moments, spiritual awakening, or this very specific time where lightning literally struck them, and somehow they were all changed and for the better, man.
Right.
And I wanted to know how do you get this feeling, because that was the only reason I was showing up. And as weird as it was, the people that had the feelings, these magic feelings, they didn't like to talk about it. They didn't really like to describe it in any detail or anything. They were really, it's kind of shrouded in mystery. And so I started to I don't know, at that point I was starting to become a skeptic of the whole thing,
right.
man. And
picking it apart, seeing the flaws.
Yeah, I didn't know what to think, And the meeting went okay. I sat down and I talked to some people. But another part of the culture, literally AA it's a talking program. And what really kind of messed me up was a lot of people, all they wanted to talk about, it was either completely off topic or it was the greatest war stories they'd ever partook in or whatever. Mm-hmm. And, I don't know about people out there, but for me, talking about drinking just made me want to go out and get drunk.
Yeah.
If I'm hearing about all these wonderful times or crazy times, I would come away wanting to go get drunk.
Right, like, what am I doing? This is boring as shit.
It was really weird. And so I was trying to make sense of it, and I would kind of reflect on, my own childhood, and I'm like, we share these war stories about getting drunk. Every week you show up and you just talk about the past. And I remember, like, when I was in 8th grade, man, little off in the weeds, but not too far. I went out for the basketball team in 8th grade, and I didn't get it right. I got cut. It was devastating. I was a little guy. It was terrible. And I remember my dad said, "Hey, man, don't dwell on it. There's always next year. You just got to knuckle down in the summer, try harder, whatever you got to do. But don't let this define you, this failure back here." And it was like the complete opposite of what AA felt like to me, where you kind of celebrated your most fucked up point, and you constantly were looking backwards all the time.
Just reliving their glory day. Well, what they considered was their glory days.
Yeah, and I didn't really understand the value there, And some people argue, well, it's to remind you that you were fucked up and that it was a terrible life or whatever. But to be honest with you, for me, it just wasn't. It wasn't the way to remind myself to.
Oh, I could see that.
Yeah. So I started to have these growing concerns about AA. And I went to a few more meetings, and a lot of it, eventually over time, they kind of all had the same feel to them, And again, I'm not trying to blast AA. If you find any value there, man, stick with it, get well, because that's all this is about anyway. And for any organization to dedicate themselves to getting people better, that's admirable. I'm not going to knock it,
And they do have some success. It's very low.
Yeah.
I believe it's like 5%.
It's very, very tiny, man.
It is. It helps some people. So. Right.
So I just want to put that out there. What I found though is that for me, and I don't know if it was like this matter of faith or whatever, and your belief in this higher power or whatever it was, but like I said before, drinking was such a physical feeling for me, and when you remove that physical feeling that I leaned on so heavily, I mean, there was a giant fucking hole there, man.
Right.
For me, it was huge.
Oh,
and when I go to these meetings, and you'd say the Serenity Prayer, and you'd share, and you could talk for days. I don't care. Nothing that I heard or seen there was going to change how I felt inside, man. I mean, I literally, my body was like addicted to a substance, and when you removed it, I got sick, and the words were not making me feel better. They weren't giving me relief. When I was at home, all I thought about was drinking, days and days of this shit. And the words never did anything, and they didn't bring any relief to me. And so I don't know if I was part of a smaller group of people that this is whatever happening to, or it was just my take on life as a realist, I guess. Give me something real I can feel and see, whatever. It started to kind of go negative for me, and I share these feelings with my family. The important thing is to communicate with them, because your behavior is going to look weird no matter what's going on if you're struggling with substance abuse.
Right.
And if you don't fucking explain to them, hey, I know this looks like I'm just fucking up over and over and over again, but you have to tell them, I do want to get better, I'm trying the best I can, just don't be afraid to tell someone, man, because if you don't tell people where you're at, they might not understand or think it's that serious or whatever, you do need a good support group if you have it, so don't be afraid to talk to people. And so I talked to my support group, my wife and my family, and I said, this just isn't cutting it for me. And I felt kind of like kind of guilty, that it wasn't working for me. Like I said, you see in the movies, assholes go in, they say their piece, and they're cured. And a lot of people were kind of expecting that. And for me, it just didn't happen. And so I felt like, hey, man, maybe I'm defective, or something I'm doing is not really working. And so it was kind of a letdown, and it kind of put me in like a really bad place. But I knew at some point that AA was probably not going to be my savior. It was not going to be what I was looking for. And
sound like you had too much common sense.
Yeah.
AA.
Yeah, I needed a little bit more. And like I said, I don't want to knock it, but a lot of the people that I did meet there that were successful, I don't want to take away from anyone's experience, but a lot of them didn't really seem like maybe they had all that much of a problem to begin with, because it was based on stories, and I did listen to what people had to say.
Depends on the people you're surrounded with, too. You know what I mean? The level.
Right,
You
yeah.
get just a little off, maybe your family freaks out and acts like it is a big problem.
Yeah.
Just party on the weekends or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's all about perspective, man. And I think that was, I came from, we like to party. I like to party. I like to get down and crazy,
Yeah.
There's my war story, man. But, in AA, not everyone is on the wavelength or whatever. I remember being at one meeting, and they would have special speakers come in, and they'd get up in front of everyone, and they would just tell the story. That would be the meeting. They would have their personal story, kind of like what we're doing here. And I remember I was at
in hopes that something,
yeah,
other things
yeah.
help.
They would highlight how much sobriety time and they're terrible, whatever happened. And I remember this dude, man, he was leading this big story, and it sounded legit, and I was really into it. And then I remember he said something, and it just blew me away, and I knew then I had to find something else. And he was telling the story, and he says, I was that guy. I was the dude that would buy a whole 12-pack and drink the whole thing. I was like, fuck, man, I drink a 12-pack to get out of bed, dude.
Right.
I was, I felt like I was somewhere else than a lot of the people. And so, maybe that was on me for the disconnect there. But the next thing around, like I said, nothing got any better. And I quit going to meetings. In all fairness, I wasn't reading the literature as much as I would later on when I got to rehab. But my first initial take on it was that there wasn't much for me. And so my regular life, things, they go from bad to worse. When you're fucked up, it always gets worse. It never gets any better. And so pretty much more of the same. My life was totally unmanageable, to lift it from AA. And I was still looking for an answer. And so where else can you go? Well, you can go to fucking rehab. That was the next logical step. That's what everyone said. Go to rehab, get your shit together, clean up your act, and
Go there for a couple months or something.
Yeah,
and
get back to your life. And so, I had nothing else to go on. I wanted to salvage what part of my life I did have left, and I didn't want to let anyone else down any more than I already had. So I decided that rehab would be my next logical move, and so I tried to get in. I remember it was like in
Tried to get in?
Yeah, it's a really interesting process to get into rehab.
You can't just go and check yourself into rehab?
No, I thought that you could just kind of walk up to the front door and you ring a bell and say, I surrender, and they would just whisk you away to this wonderful ward, this magic place where it was really comfortable and quiet. But
That's what I assume.
Yeah. But when I decided to make that move on a terrible morning, I called in for like the last time, no sick time left. I was between a rock and a rock. I was in deep shit, and I said, "This is the day I'm going, man. So let's just call, and I'll get in, and that'll be the end of it." And so I went to I tried to get into a pretty famous rehab center that's in Brighton, just outside of Brighton City, without naming any names, and I remember we got on the phone with them, and they're like, "There's no beds, man. What do you think you can just show up here? You're gonna get in?" And I was like, "Well, yeah, I'm fucked up. I'm drunk. I want help, And they're like,
"I'm in the closet.
They
Drive
said,
me up."
Yeah, and they said, well, there's nothing. We have absolutely nothing available, so you can keep calling if you want. Maybe someone will not show up or whatever.
Wow.
So that was my introduction into rehab and the circus that can be. And so I spent the next 2 days detoxing on my own, dying on the floor, and calling, every 30, 40 minutes trying to get into this fucking hospital. And after 2 days, sweating and puking and doing all the terrible shit and making 1,000 promises to yourself and God or whoever that you're never going to drink again, whatever, I finally got through to them, and they said, all right, there's a bed open up, come on down.
Sweet.
So, yeah, I'm pumped or whatever. So I show up, and I packed a little bag. I really didn't know what to do or whatever,
Right.
Or
how long you'll be there.
Yeah, I was assuming that it was going to be like a long stay in my mind, and like in the movies and in books and bullshit. I had this weird number of like 30 days. These 30 days, I'll go in there and get cleaned up and whatever. And only after I got admitted and would find out later that 30 days is like a fantasy myth, legendary dragon that does not exist. It's really not something that you're going to get on your first ride. Probably not your 5th ride or your 10th ride. So just so you know, don't get your hopes up and think that you're going to show up to the gate and they're going to let you stay for some indefinite time. A lot of it's based on the insurance you have. And if your insurance doesn't okay the stay, you're fucked, man. That's just all there is to it. And I never thought about. Yeah, I didn't understand how it all worked, but I was going to become a pro over the next several years. And
Jesus.
So yeah, getting in that the first time, it was a nightmare. And without getting into too much detail, it was a new environment. I didn't know what it would be like or what kind of people were in there. I had all these different thoughts, just like AA. And it was confusing and not moving fast. And so I get in and checked in and through the process, and I have to answer 10,000 questions, and you piss in a cup. And the first thing that they did is they screamed at me and they said, "What the fuck were you doing, detoxing yourself at home?" I said, I don't know. I just thought that was the process, And they said, no, man, you can die, literally. If you're a severe alcoholic, you can die from going cold turkey. Never do that again. And so that kind of blew me away. And I said, so you just want me to show up next time drunk at the front door? And they said, well, yeah, we'd rather have that than you falling out and hitting your head or having a heart attack or whatever.
Wow.
So it was definitely a new experience for me. And it was like a hurry up and wait type thing, You get into one room, and then you wait, and then you got to wait, and then go to another room. Kind of like a ride at Disneyland, You're always moving, but you're not going anywhere.
Right.
And so I spent about 6 hours, I think, from the time I showed up to the time that I got checked in or whatever. And I remember, they made me my little wristband and my little name badge, and they took me over to the main house, and they said, this is the detox wing. This is where you're going to be for a couple of days. We're going to keep an eye on you. And again, it was kind of weird and kind of confusing. It was a different environment. And, you'll see some people in rehab that are totally fucked up, dog sick, and then other people, they're on the pink cloud, man, and they're the happiest people on earth, and you just want to choke them, man. It's a really weird environment.
Wow.
And so there was all this shit going on. I'm in this detox wing, and, I kind of got my head together after a couple of days. And I'm waiting for the program to start. I'm going to do classes. I'm going to talk to doctors. I mean, all this shit's going to happen to me. And after being there for 2 days and smoking cigarettes, waiting for something to happen, they come into my room and they said, well, you haven't fucked up enough to be here. It doesn't warrant the level of care that we provide, so you just have to leave. Yeah. And so I was like, I freaked out, I said, what do you mean? My shit's all fucked up at work. I'm having a hard time. My life's falling apart. I said, how much worse do you want it to get, before you're going to fucking help me? And they said, well, they were apologetic or whatever, but they said, maybe we can help you get you into another place or whatever. But that was my literal first experience at rehab. I tried to get in for 2 days, stayed for 2 days, and then they said, get the fuck out. And
I don't think a lot of people even would believe that. Because really, I assume that you could just go to rehab.
Yeah.
They help you out.
Yeah.
Make you a better person to go function in society.
Yeah, I was pretty pumped up, man. And by the end of it, I was like, it was a total letdown. My head was completely blown, and I really, I didn't know what to think of it, man. Because this was my go-to plan. AA had failed. It was a joke for me. I didn't like it. Rehab was going to be the place where I got everything together.
Wow.
And
now it's not even an option.
Right off the bat, they're saying leave, man. So luckily enough, one of the nurses that I was expressing my frustration to, I told her I couldn't believe that this was happening. So she got on the horn, and they called in a hospital down in Canton, which was a little less reputable, a little less well-funded. It's kind of an interesting scene. They got me in, which I was grateful because, like I said, I was expecting 30 days, and I hadn't received any programming. I thought they would give me some magic message and it would cure me. Right. And so I was lucky enough to get me to down in this other place in Canton, and so my wife picked me up from rehab. We were really confused. We didn't really know what to make of it, and so we drove over and checked in, and it was kind of like basically just warehousing. After about 4 or 5 days there, I realized that there was no programming at all. There was a day room. You had like a bunk room. There was 8 beds to a room. 2 rooms shared a really disgusting bathroom. If you didn't go to the food lines fast enough, they would run out of regular food, and you'd have to eat fucking Rice Krispies in a big wall container. I mean, it was a different place, man. And
yeah, it sounds like a halfway house or something.
Yeah, pretty much. And most of the people that I met there were transitioning from prison. It was like a parole rehab center, really. Okay. And so it was like me, like 2 other people from the straight world, I guess you could say, and the rest were all people who just got out of the joint, man, and were trying to get back into the world or whatever.
Forced to be there.
Yeah.
Not full of people wanting to get back.
Yeah, no, it was like a checkbox for parole or something, man. Yeah. So, and like I said, there was no programming, and I didn't really know what to make of it. So this is my second go at rehab, and it was going nowhere. We sat in this day room all day long, and if you were hungry, you get food, or they had some vending machines, and that was it.
So it was just a place to stay sober.
Yeah, literally hang out.
It. Keep you alive.
Yeah, they kept you alive, for the most part. But it was a seedy place too, man. Towards the end of the stay, like 2 nights before I left there, and this is pretty much the make or breaker. I spent New Year's Eve, in rehab, so it was a real bummer, man. First New Year's Eve, somewhere not at the party.
For an alcoholic.
Yeah, it was devastating, man. And and the weirdest thing is that people, this place was shaky enough that they had brought in half gallons of vodka, and there was some bindles floating around of some H and shit.
All right.
And it was a really weird scene. It was New Year's Eve. We watched A Requiem for a Dream, great movie, but under the circumstances, it was really far out. So the people are drinking the cheapest fucking vodka that they made. I don't even know, Mohawk or whatever it was. Who knows? And almost to midnight, man, the place kind of erupted in like a 5 or 6 man fight. And the Canton police were called in, and it was really weird. And after that, I called my wife. I said, I think I've had enough of this round. There's no programming here, man. I don't know. Maybe we could try outpatient or something else, but this was not where I needed to be.
Once again, not for you.
No. So I left the mini riot and the booze and the fucking heroin and all that stuff that was going on there, and I checked myself out. I'd been there, I don't know, I think right around 13 or 14 days, okay, which was pretty amazing. But considering the services they offered, it wasn't really a very good deal.
Yeah. And
it was probably one of the longest stays I ever had anywhere. But whatever. And so I got out of there, and I thought that maybe I would try outpatient. I still didn't feel any better. I hadn't been told anything that really changed my life. I didn't feel like I was a new person. I still literally felt like the same dude. And
still looking for answers.
Yeah, looking for answers in all of the wrong places. And so the AA and rehab was clunky there. And for a while I decided I would try outpatient. And they offer outpatient a lot of places. It's not hard to find.
What's outpatient? What does that mean?
It's kind of like weekly classes you go to, okay, maybe like an hour and a half. Like sometimes they're referred to as didactics in rehab or whatever. But it was like the first actual real programming that I got, other than bullshit at the.
It's another way to keep you on the path outside.
Right. Definitely more words and stuff. And I remember. When I went to outpatient, they they gave us all a copy of the big book. And this was something that people swore by in AA. They loved this book. And it was one that I resisted on reading for a long time. And eventually, as rehab started to fail for me, I decided to, do a gut check. And maybe I wasn't trying hard enough, and I wasn't immersing myself in the literature. Maybe the words in the paper and the ink were going to save me. So I started and got one of my first copies of the big book. And I went to the classes for like 8-9 weeks, and I didn't, like I said, I didn't feel any different, man. I still had this massive hole. I still thought about drinking every day. And I realized that, I could go to a lot of classes, but just like AA and rehab, it wasn't giving me anything I could hang my hat on. It wasn't like a real thing. It was just, you got to read this. And if this doesn't work for you, you got to read it harder, man. You're not reading it hard enough.
It's your fault.
Yeah, and then it's like, you gotta work the steps. I heard that so many fucking times I could tear my hair out, man. Work the steps. Well, they're pretty basic, and for the most part, they're like common sense dressed up and whatever. And it was like the go-to thing. If someone wasn't getting it or failing in these programs, it was always, you got to try just really, really believing in it and really, really trying. And like, I was like, dude, I'm not an idiot, man. I'm like, this isn't gonna do it for me.
I can read. I read it.
Yeah, and even when I did read it, and I'll get to that in a minute, it still didn't really take me anywhere. So I get out of outpatient, I don't really have a lot of tools. I have a blue book that I can read, and I have these amazing experiences that I could draw on from the first 2 times.
Some cool coins.
Yeah. They gave me some really, really neat coins to prove that I had been there. And this is my favorite one. They gave this to me after 2 days. And on the back of it, it says, I came with hope, worked and learned. I have a new life, a life that I've earned. And this is after 2 days. And they kicked me out. And so now, because they said it and it's on this fucking coin, I have a new life, apparently.
All right.
Now, if this works for you, man, more power to you. I am so happy for you. But declaring I have a new life after 48 hours of nothing and then getting booted, I was like, man, I'm going to take this to Huckleberry Junction and put it in the skee-ball machine because this is not working for me, man. I kept them. I collected them, like I said, maybe I wasn't trying hard enough, but in the end, it didn't do anything for me. And so my personal life, when I got out, I experienced about 65 days of what they call in the business white knuckling it. And it's where you literally just will yourself to be sober, you will yourself to be clean. And it's really a nightmare because you're just on willpower. There is
right.
You don't have any tools or anything.
Constantly talking to yourself, inside dialogue.
I won't drink right now. That was all you could really do. And so after the 2 rehabs there in the AA, I made it 65 days. After outpatient had ended.
That seems good.
Yeah, for me, that was literally the longest I'd ever gone sober. And it almost felt like a victory, even though I wasn't really any better shape or anything. At the time it felt like something, but really it was just a lot of hope and wishful thinking. And so from that first time period of 2006, I made it all the way to 2009 before the bottom literally blew out again. And it was bound to happen because I had nothing to lean on.
Right.
I had no tools that worked for me. And like I said, you can only white knuckle it for so long. After 65 days, I decided to start drinking again because I still had these cravings, these urges. It was all I thought about, man. It ruled my life. It dictated like 24 hours a day. And if I couldn't use, I wasn't happy. I felt just, it was like, I don't know, I had like a big rain cloud on me, like Eeyore, man. And so by July of 2009, it had, almost been 3 years, and I was right back in the same spot because I hadn't did anything that worked. And so this time around, I was a little more fucked up, and when I showed up to the hospital just outside of Brighton, they actually did let me in, and when I showed up, I took their advice, and I got completely loaded, and I woke up like 2 days later in the program, in my boxers, in a bed in the back somewhere. It was really weird. But just like the first time, they didn't have much to really say. They gave me a copy of the book. I woke up with this book. This book was on my nightstand, and I was in my boxers, and I was hungover and sick as fuck, and they gave me some phenobarbital, and they said, this is your way forward. This is what you got to do. You got to read it. When you feel better, we're going to get you into the program. And at least at that point, I felt like, okay, I'm going to see some new shit here, man. There's going to actually be some real programming. I've only heard about it, but maybe this is what I actually needed to get past the silver, the door in the back, whatever, the rope, the velvet rope or whatever it was. And so when I get to the back, I'd find out that it's really just like, hey, man, it's all talk, man. All they want to do is talk about shit. And
it sounds like they just want to change your mindset more than cure you of your problem.
Yeah, and I don't know if it's because a lot of the people maybe that are going there weren't really as bad as they thought they were, and so wishful thinking actually helped some people.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like.
You know, I literally met people in rehab that knew they were an addict because they smoked weed at Michigan State for a weekend and couldn't stop. I mean, I'm like, dude, what are you doing?
That's all I could think about Monday.
Yeah, like, what are you doing here, man? And this was how long ago or whatever. And, you know, or you'd meet dudes that they had a drunk driving arrest, man. Not like 20 or not like 10, and one's too many. But I'd be like, well, what happened? Well, I got drunk and I got arrested, and I'm an alcoholic. And it's like, that's it? That was your one thing? I mean, I've been drinking daily for years, you know, and it's nothing to brag about or glorify or anything, but I thought that I was going to run into more people that were kind of on that wavelength, and I found a lot of people there. I don't know what they were really doing there.
Maybe most people on your level just don't seek help. I mean, maybe they just assume they're too far gone, and that's why you're not seeing them. They're just in some bar somewhere.
No, it's quite possible because, you know, as I went through these programs, man, I got more and more demoralized to the point where, for a time, I thought, what is the point of this? You know, maybe I'm so damaged and so broke that none of this shit is going to work for me. And I would literally lost hope a few times. I mean, you know, in a big way. I'm not even joking. I hit rock bottom, and then you dig a little farther down, and you find another floor, and you keep going.
Well, everybody knows, you know, people eventually die of alcoholism.
Yeah.
So if you're that bad off, you're probably having thoughts like that. Like, am I going to be that guy?
Yeah. And for me, it was totally true, man. You know, by 29, you know, maybe 30, I was pretty much resigned to the fact that I was going to die, either maybe overdosing on alcohol and sleeping medication, or you know, drunk driving crash, killing myself.
Right.
Or like waking up in prison and not knowing what happened. I'd killed somebody or crashed a car or something bad had happened.
Yeah.
Like, I just figured that it was going to end. And so for a while, I kind of waited for that end to come. And I don't know if I was lucky or what, man, because that ending didn't really show up. But my health did start to really go to shit, man.
Really?
My liver, I started having problems with my liver. And the doctors, they kept telling me, man, they said, you cannot do this. Your liver gets fatty, and then it hardens, and then it dies, and it's very painful. And, you know, I was hearing all the shit, but like I said, I didn't have anything to stop this amazing tide from coming to shore, man. And
Right.
I'd hold up as much as I could. And so what happened was, eventually, you know, in the beginning, how I said, I drink, but I don't lose jobs, I don't call in sick. Well, you know, I did call in sick, and I did start to lose jobs. And so it started to kind of pile on. And in the first time, where it was almost 3 years between the two rehab stays, from like 2009 and beyond, it got shorter and shorter, man. From like almost 3 years to maybe half a year, then down to like a couple months. And then I was getting hospitalized sometimes every couple of weeks, you know. And
you realized that you had to be in there, or you were gonna go off the rails.
You know, when I was still working, you know, I would try to do these magical disappearing acts where, like, on a Friday, you know, I would hit a bad stretch. You know, I'd bender really, really bad, and you know, I would pull some bullshit. Oh yeah, I'm sick or something. I got to go to the doctors, and I'd go to ER, you know, over the weekend and like check in, dry out, you know, just long enough to get back to work. You know,
wow.
But people know, man, you're fucked up. You're fucked up, you know, and so, you know, the jobs, you know, I started to lose them more frequently, and I didn't get fired exactly. I never, even to this day, I've never been written up for drinking or drinking related anything like that at work. Most of my trouble came from calling in sick, just not being able to make it in, or
being unreliable.
Yeah, pretty much. And so, as this like pace continued, it started to really speed up, and I started just like AA, where I didn't like one meeting. Maybe it's going to be at another meeting, and they're going to have the answer somewhere else. I'm going to go to different rehab places, man. I'm going to find a different point of view, maybe somewhere that really works, because they all tell you on the phone that they have a specialized program that will work for you. They were all going to tell you that, man.
Oh, that place didn't work? We'll come over here. We got some.
Yeah, and when you show up, man, all they want to do is give you the blue book again, okay?
Oh.
So I started to build a small library out of these things, and every time I checked in, man, they would give me another book. And I'd say, that's all right, I already have one. And they say, no, just take it, It's the core of their program or whatever, And so I really started to really lose hope, and I was starting to sink.
Hey, what a slap in the face.
Yeah. And things got really bad, because there's nothing worse than, first of all, admitting that you're fucked up and you have a problem. The second worst thing is when you admit you have a problem and you go to the standardized places that are supposed to save you or help you, and you get nothing, man, okay? Or it doesn't work for you, or maybe I wasn't listening just a certain way, but for whatever reason, I was failing. I was met with this continual failing wherever I went. And I started to really internalize that, and it got to the point where I'm like, man, I'm better off fucking dead. I really thought that a lot of the time. And so,
well, yeah, it's such a fight. You've been years.
Yeah.
Where's the end,
Yeah, and at a certain point, I felt like there was nothing that was going to be out there for me, and nothing that was going to help me. And so you get to a point, where you give up or suicidal or whatever, It is what it is. And so I got to that point, and, I had to go check in at the hospital down in Ann Arbor and kind of get a head check, for a couple weeks, because I was at such a low place that I did not want to continue anymore. I did not want to get up and use, and I did not want to get up and feel like I needed to use all day and couldn't, or I just didn't want to be sick anymore. I mean, I was that low. And so the hospital in Ann Arbor was amazing, and they were very kind and comfortable. It was the first experience where I thought rehab was kind of supposed to be like, and they treated you with baby gloves and kind of got you back to a functioning place. And it was cool, but the answer, once they got you up and walking and talking and back to normal again, was to go to rehab. So now I find myself leaving that place and going right back to Brighton. And when I got to Brighton, the first thing they did is they gave me another book.
Of course.
And I told them I already had a lot of copies, but they were insistent that that's what I needed. I needed another copy. And I really needed to really want it this time. Like, apparently I hadn't wanted to get better all these other times. It
usually takes like 6 or 7. They probably know that. They just
yeah. I don't know what the hell it was, man.
Just
but
keep going.
If you get 12 books, then you're going to be set.
Yeah.
You have one for each step, And so, I was getting towards the end of my rope, man. And about 2012 and 2013 was the worst years for me. I was at that point where I could no longer stop from drinking, going to work sometimes, and every day I was like, today's the day, fuck it, I don't care, Right. I was literally, the last couple months, I was like, I don't even care, man. I hope someone grabs me, busts me, whatever, and it just never happened. Huh. And so I made the decision at some point. I was still getting hospitalized over and over and over again. I could no longer work. What I was doing, I couldn't do sober, and that was like a separate issue, but that's where I think I was. And so, I'm like, I'm going to die. I have to get clean no matter what, And that's something that I want to tell people that are out there. A lot of the times I was resistant to going to doing treatment or anything because I would say, well, I have a job, man, and if I go to treatment, I'm going to lose my job, and then everyone's going to know I'm fucked up and all this shit. There's a news flash, man. If you're in active addiction, you are going to lose that fucking job, man. And it might not be tomorrow and it might not be in 2 weeks, but you will fucking lose it. And you can get another job because I got lots of jobs. you'll lose all those too. And you can say, I can't do anything. I have to, I have to work, and it's all going to go away one way or another. So
Right.
it's kind of up to you how you want it to go.
That's a good point.
Yeah, and so I played the game, and I even used that excuse in the very beginning. I said, I'll lose my job. Everyone already knows you're fucked up, man. You're the last one to know
The
that
job's going.
Yeah, they're pretty much on to you. And so, towards the end of the rehab cycle and the standardized treatments that I explored, I think in 2013, I was hospitalized like 9 times.
Wow.
That's how frequent it started to become. It got so bad that the rehab center near Brighton wouldn't take me anymore. I checked in because, like I said, I didn't know what else to do. I was a walking, talking 4 or 5 sometimes. I mean, it was bad.
Mike's here. Lock the doors.
Yeah, and I remember the same fucking place that kicked me out after 2 days and no help several years earlier. Now they wanted to know what had changed, and I was like, nothing, man, because I don't have anything to facilitate that change, And they say, well, here's a copy of the big book. Thanks for coming in, man, but you don't. We're not going to take you, back here anymore. And so I literally I went to rehab so many times that they said I couldn't go back. And so
You can't come back. Just read this harder.
Yeah. And they said, best of luck to you. And after a certain point, insurance, they won't pay for things either, man. You will have to fight with people. And it was like I was a lost cause, man. I'd been hospitalized like 27 times at that point.
Wow.
And, like I said, even the rehab people gave up on me. So, and I don't blame them, man. I was in a bad spot. And so I quit my job. Rehab wasn't a reality anymore. I absolutely despised AA, even though they're wonderful. I had nowhere to go, nowhere to turn, and I was kind of hanging around to die, man. It's 2013. And, this basically how the story kind of closes out for you guys out there. Someone said, hey, man, it's so bad. Why don't you try medical marijuana? What's the difference? You're going to die anyway. What have you got to lose?
Right.
And, I thought about it, and at that point, there wasn't much left to lose besides my family and my loved ones. Everything else had kind of gone away. And addiction, if you do not address it and you do not try to get better, it will take everything away. Whether you read the big book or whatever, if you don't find something that works for you, you are going to lose it all one way or another. And so I had a brief experience with weed in the past. I come from a very liberal family, General Motors family. All the guys and the grandparents, everyone worked at General Motors. Shop rats, whatever you want to call it. A lot of stoners, man. There's a lot of roaches in the ashtrays. And when we were younger, we used to, swipe a few and smoke, But it wasn't like when I drank. When I drank, it was like a way of life. It was a religion for me. It was what kept me sane, I guess, in a weird, fucked up way. And so I didn't really know what to think about it. I said, well, I don't know if it can really help. But I was so exhausted from trying the big book and the programs and the meetings and everything that I was open to it. I was like, fuck it. I really do surrender. I will try it.
Yeah.
Because the one thing they taught me in AA, and they said it over and over again, is they said, you know what insane is? And they say, well, what's insane? And they say, when you do the same thing over and over and over and over and over again, expecting a different result and getting the same every time. And so I had tried over and over and over and over again with their way, and I got the same result every time. So I took their advice, and I decided to try something different outside of the box or the circle or whatever you want to call it. And so I wasn't sure how to proceed. I didn't have a medical card. The program was very new in Michigan still. And I was nervous, man. I had a CCW. I was afraid of losing certain things. Are they going to come take my guns or whatever the hell? And, I said, fuck it. I called up a buddy that I'd known for 20 years. He worked at a bar. And I said, hey, man, I'm looking for some pot. Can you help me out? And he said, sure, man. Swing down to this wonderful bar. And I did. And I scored a bag of weed. And I went home, and I didn't know how to roll a joint or anything. I was pretty new, what you would consider new, to the scene. And so I had a pop bottle and some tin foil and a fucking pen that I cut up like I did in the olden days, in middle school or high school. So I had this really shitty 10-cent bong, and I got fucking stoned. And it was really weird because for the first time, I was actually putting something physical to replace that physical feeling that was no longer there. And it wasn't magic hope. It wasn't little shitty coins that no one takes at the arcade. It was an actual thing. It was weed. Weed, pot, whatever. It was medicine. And for the first time in like years, I just sat down and I fucking relaxed, man. I sat on the couch. I didn't know what to do. I was like,
"What are you worried about drinking?"
Yeah, it totally was gone.
Yeah.
Okay, and this is the only thing that I was doing differently. I'd given up on all the other treatment. This was the last chance, and if it didn't work, I had already secretly made a promise with myself to finish the job off with the bottle and do it. Throw it in overdrive. Let's get this shit over with. And so I could breathe, man. I'm on the couch. I'm stoned. I'm fucking hungry. I can eat. And just like from years of having trouble sleeping and whatever, I smoked some more weed and I fell asleep. And I wasn't even in bed, man. I was sitting at the couch, I'm fucking blown out. And, people can knock it, and people that believe in these books, they can knock it and say, oh, whatever. Hey, man, it's basically, I needed something real to replace that feeling. And I found it with marijuana. And it worked so good that I kept going back to it. At the time, I still didn't have my card, but after a very short time of dealing with street buys and shit and the inconsistency, I was like, you know what, this is working so well for me, unlike anything else I had done before.
It is medicine.
Yeah, it was working. I'm just going to go all in with it, I mean, fuck it. It's a new day, a new dawn. I'm not going to sit around a table with 6 fucking depressed dudes and tell you how bad of a fucking idiot I am. I'm going to move on from that, man. And so I got on my little ship, and I sailed off into the future. And so I decided I'd get my card. I didn't know what to do, and it's really not as hard as it sounds. It's intimidating. There's state form. It's nothing, okay? Don't be afraid to go try it. If you were in a position like me, if you're out there, everything else has failed, and you have nothing to lose, man.
It's either going to be a yes or no.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
Either you qualify or you don't.
Yeah, and I'm not... This message really isn't for the dude that fucked up on one weekend 6 years ago, and that's it. And it's not for the person that's had moderate success. I was a dude that nothing worked for, and so that's who I'm really talking to. If nothing worked for you and you have nothing to lose except your life, man, why not at least try? You can always find out, hey, it doesn't work, and I'm going to go get drunk again. But I really hope you don't, and I'll tell you why. If I can get sober from alcohol and stay and abstain from it on a long-term basis, okay, anyone can fucking do it, okay? I was as bad as, everyone says that, but...
It sounds like it, man.
It was pretty bad, I have 27 blue books somewhere to prove how bad I was. And
That's crazy.
Yeah, so marijuana worked for me. And the weirdest thing about marijuana, I got on the program, I got my card. I wanted to be legal to avoid legal issues with driving or buying or whatever. Mm-hmm. I was like, man, if I get half my life back, I'll be totally cool with it or whatever, But like right off the bat, man, I got about what I would say about 65% of my life back.
Yeah.
I might have been a little stoned and I might have smelled a little funny sometimes, but I didn't miss family functions anymore. I didn't black out in public. I didn't make an ass out of myself. I didn't do really reckless and dangerous things. I didn't fire guns off for no reason. I didn't do all these crazy things. All of that was removed.
And you weren't sick anymore.
I wasn't sick anymore, dude, which was the greatest gift that I could get, man. I didn't have this amazing urge to run out and drink. It had literally been replaced. My mind was different, man. And so for the first time ever, I could live life again. I started reading, and I started getting back to the person that I used to be prior to completely just shutting down. And as I got more and more of my life back, I just got more and more excited about medical marijuana. In the beginning for me, there was different shops out at the time. There was dispensaries around.
Coming out. They were new.
It was a little, I guess, less regulated than it is now or whatever.
Yeah.
And so some places were hit or miss, but it still worked just fine. And, I bounced around. The hardest thing that I encountered earlier on was some of the pricing was pretty high, and some of the products, they might not always be what they said they were or whatever. And as I slowly started to get my life back, I needed to find a place that I could rely on that was a solid place, that had good products, and a good, safe environment. I didn't want to be down some weird alleyway, talking to Freddie, the traveling gypsy dude. I didn't want to. I wanted a place out in the open. We're all legal. Let's treat it like a normal legal thing. And so after bouncing around to some dispensaries in Flint, I eventually wound up at the Compassion Club. Someone said, check it out, it's amazing, and so I did. I walked over, and it was such a wonderful place. I remember, when you're new to the marijuana program, I know I was initially. I was nervous. I didn't know a lot about weed. I didn't know the difference between indica and sativa. My whole previous knowledge was flower. I didn't know about RSO and edibles and all this cool shit, and whatever, man.
There's so much out there.
Yeah,
it can be intimidating.
Yeah,
sure.
And in some of the dispensaries, some of the people I come across, may feel kind of stupid or whatever. Maybe they didn't mean it, but
Sometimes they're arrogant.
Right. And when I got to the Compassion Club, man, I'll never forget. I met these really nice dudes. There's a guy named Randy and the guy that they called Hippie. I don't know his real name, but that's what I still call him to this day.
Patrick.
Yeah. So they showed me around. They told me the rules of the club. They gave me a walking tour, and it was great. I didn't feel dumb. And they said, you don't have to, man. Everyone here is really cool. They'll know where you're coming from. And so I'll never forget it. At some of the dispensaries I was used to going up, there's a counter, there's 5 jars, shit, okay shit, and really good shit. That's really expensive. You come in here, and it's like going to the Disneyland of marijuana. It was the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen.
It is.
It was like 30 little tables set up around a room, and a couple high risers in the back. Everybody had 4 or 5 jars, and it was top-notch shit, and the pricing was amazing, man. I'll never forget. I was getting burned, paying sometimes $24 for a good gram of weed at some places, and the shit wasn't flushed right or whatever, man.
That's crazy.
So I got to the Compassion Club, and it was amazing. The service was good. They had places to hang out. When I was a drunk dude, a bar dude, I liked being out with people. I didn't really like to use alone. In the beginning, I was definitely out there.
A social aspect, definitely.
Yeah,
definitely part of drinking. So.
Yeah, and when I got into the marijuana program, the one thing that I did miss was being able to be around other people and just have a laugh. Just be around other people. We're human, man. That's what we like to do. And it was awesome because the Compassion Club had like a little like a snack bar, man, that you could hang out. And they had drinks and munchies if you got stoned and were hungry. They had like a kitchen that made warm, hot food, good plates of really nice shit. And you could sit there. You could go buy your medication. You could get a couple PRs, and you could sit there. And now you're out. You're medicating, and you're out in public and having a good time.
Yeah.
And it was really nice to get that back. As much as I like smoking in my 10-cent bong in my bathroom, sometimes I need to get out and be around people. It's good for me, and whatever. It's good for my medical.
We'd love to see you up there. Yeah.
Right on. So I started going to the Compassion Club, and I never quit going. And I met some amazing people there. Will, Matt, Big Ken. There's so many different people up there that have just wonderful products, man, and I'll always be grateful that it's a place. So if you're in the Flint area and you're looking for a place to go that's safe, clean, wonderful, check them out, man. They will take care of you.
Genesee County Compassion Club.
Yep, it's a beautiful
Look us
thing.
up. And if you're hungry while you're there, you can get something from the Growing Concern. They're attached to us.
Absolutely, right next door. So so that pretty much that's where I found myself. Every day got a little better, And I started getting more of my life back, and I wasn't dwelling on the past. I wasn't living with Marty McFly somewhere back here. I was out front, and I started writing books, as just for something to do. I pretty much destroyed my chances of working a normal job through years of rehab. Most people, they don't want someone that's been to rehab 370,000 times.
See you as like a recidivist, kind of.
Yeah, and tattooed or whatever. I didn't really know what I wanted to do, and so I felt so strongly about the program and about going through, about what it was like to go through it, and how maybe people like me could benefit from medical marijuana. I truly believe that. I mean, there's lots of reasons to take medical marijuana for sicknesses or whatever, but
physical ailments and things.
But for hardcore alcoholics and substance abusers, man, this is a great way to move forward if everything else has failed. And I actually, not to plug my own book, but I'm going to do it. I wrote a book about it. It's called Envy with Green: Homegrown Sobriety. And it literally just tells a story between the years of 2013 and 2017. It's available on Amazon. It's $10. If you can't afford a copy, I'll be glad to mail you one.
It's amazing. You need to read it. Going back to the club, I was there the other day, and a guy come in and had your book. He had bookmarks in like it was his Bible. You know what I mean? And I guess he was asking around, trying to find you. Somebody sent him over to me, knowing that we were friends.
Yeah, shouts out to Jacob, man.
Jacob.
Really, I appreciate the kind words. I actually reached out to him, and we shared a few emails back and forth. Cool. And it was really cool because it was like one of the first times that someone had read the book, and it was
found it helpful.
Yeah, helpful. Yeah. The dude had not exactly the same shit going on, but he had experienced a lot of the same things, and he said that it was helping him through like a rough patch, man. And it just I don't know. I was really pumped to hear that, man.
Yeah, he was so glad that I could get him in touch. I'm like, yeah, I can't give you his information, but I'll get you his.
Right. And for people that struggle with substance abuse, I really think that medical marijuana is the wave of the future, man. I really don't think it's here. I really don't. That's pretty much about all I have on the topic. The book pretty much chronicles 2013 to 2017, and it kind of removes some of the mysteries. Some of the things I've shared with you tonight, and like I said, if you're in a bad spot somewhere tonight and you're drunk in your basement, or you've called in sick to work and you're drinking a case of beer and you got a couple of 40s in the freezer and some cigarettes, hey man, fucking read it, and it might give you a way forward that you didn't know existed, and that's the best I can hope for, that someone out there could find some value from it. I really believe in it. Is it perfect? No, nothing is perfect, man.
Of course.
Nothing is perfect. But is it better than where you were? For me, the answer is yes.
I've never seen anybody get help from this, to be honest. But I've personally witnessed somebody get help from this.
Right on.
So it is what it is.
Yeah. So medical marijuana, check it out. If you have a friend or a family member or a loved one that's going through a tough time, and you're out of options, again, it's something to think about. And it might not be a good fit, but who knows, man? If you have nothing to lose, you have nothing to lose.
There's only one way to find out.
Yep. So that pretty much wraps it up for tonight. I hope that some of my words, like I said, could help someone find a new path forward. Next week, we're going to be covering the Detroit Underground Sound, the years 1990 to 99. Like I said, with the Juggalos, the Wicked Shit, Esham, Nadas, House of Crazies, ICP, pretty much.
It's going to be cool, man.
Yeah, so tune in next week and check that out, and keep coming back, and we'll keep trying to have some interesting shit for you guys to check out. So have a good night, and we'll see you next time.
Awesome.